Hi, I'm Chris Nedza, Lead Entrepreneur in Residence of the Advanced Technology Development Center at Georgia Tech. We're the state of Georgia's technology incubator. Welcome to Season 1 of the ATDC podcast, Executive Bytes. We focus on the startup founders in our portfolio, what sparked them to launch their companies, the market problem they've solved, and even how they overcame the thoughts of quitting when times get rough. Enjoy. All right, well, welcome to this episode of Executive Bytes. This is a really interesting episode I think you guys will find super cool. It's not my typical guest. In fact, I usually host these, but I found, like when they tap the arm, the baseball coach taps the arm and says, bring in the reliever. So I did. I went deep and got a closer, and James Harris is hosting. He's,
that's
amazing.
Very kind of you.
Yeah, well, that's the truth. You gotta know what's better than you. And Jake Kaempf from Everyday is our guest. Now I'm gonna tee this up. Really, it's about AI, and it's gonna be a little bit weird and cool when your URL is everyday.ooo. And I'm gonna guess that I don't know how you got that, but it was like out of office. I want
to make it cooler than it is, but it was really the only way we could get everyday as one word in a URL.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, I think it's awesome. It kind of shows a little bit of uniqueness. But I do want to comment about your LA hat. We're here in Atlanta, everybody. He is a transplant. He's just holding on white-knuckled to LA. But we'll get you a Braves hat,
Well, we moved out here to Atlanta for a reason. That's because of how amazing the city is, and especially the makeup of this town as far as the future of technology and business goes. So while I am a Dodgers fan, I'm a big Atlanta fan as well.
The first time we met, I asked you, you're from California and you got a tech company. What are you doing here? And what was your answer?
When everybody zigs, I zag. Right? Everybody's staying in California. I think you can look at economic and cultural things. And when we were looking at what is that great makeup for the perfect city to build a company in, it had this trifecta. So it was higher education, great business environment, and great culture. And in my mind, ATDC sits right at the center of that. And that's why we're working right out of here at Tech Square.
Oh, yeah, it does. So, James, take over and drive. Let's talk about Everyday, the business. What the heck does it do?
I mean, Jake, what is Everyday, and why did you name the company Everyday?
That's a loaded question.
Okay.
So really it comes from a stem and belief in people. And I think with the coming change that artificial intelligence will have on business and people and culture in general, I wanted to root our name in something that related back to that. How do we as people use this in the future? Now, Everyday as a company it's a beautifully powerful product. And at its core, it's really two things. One, we're building an AI dam that lets you aggregate all of your assets into one central place and train a computer vision model on that. And second, it's an intelligent work environment. So that replaces the browser and lets you use agents to search, plan, and take action across all of your applications. Cursor for marketing ops, if you will.
Gotcha. And so let's talk about dams and what does that mean? How does that fit into a creative organization?
Oh, I mean, a dam, a digital asset management system, is kind of an old tool, an expensive tool, a complex and kind of cruddy tool. I can't curse on here, otherwise I'd say other words. But basically that helps big advertisers manage all of the assets that they create across their organization. So if Coke wants to go advertise their new Zero product, then they're going to create thousands of assets. Walmart, for example, creates hundreds of thousands of assets every year, and they have to manage.
And let's talk about an asset like a photograph, a poster, a label for a new bottle, an end cap for the store.
End caps, PDFs, pitch decks, videos, social, all of it.
And Dropbox and Google doesn't work for them?
Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, right? That's the craziness that we're fixing, is all of these assets are managed across thousands of vendors that one advertiser will use, and different trafficking companies that will help get them to the media outlets like Disney or Netflix. All these things are spread out. We basically fix this by letting them drop their links, upload from their cloud, and put them in one place, and then our system automatically trains a computer vision model on that and allows them to just use casual semantic search to find any of them.
And so that's kind of the market that you went after first, was this marketing agency space, right?
Yeah, marketing ops, creative ops, that space, yeah.
And so they have these assets. They've had them for decades. Now they're in a digital system, and now you're creating a platform that can search through all of that, recognize what's there. And so after you have that intelligence within the dam, what does your product do beyond that?
That's a great question. So the aggregation is one thing, right? The training is another. So what do you do with the data? This is the power of AI, right? We are starting to link those assets to licensing. So like name, image, likeness, when you start to connect brands or legal to how they have the rights to use, somebody's face, an athlete's face. So we track that. Additionally, with that search, we allow you to embed that within, let's say, Slack, so that you don't have to go to a third-party app. You can be in Slack with your team, call every day, and you can be like, hey, where's that video of the new product that we're about to launch, or that has that girl in New York, and it'll pull it up to the timestamp.
So, hey, James, not to interview you, but I'm going to interview you. Sure. I mean, this is really cool because when we first started talking about it, you got a hold of this and you got to listen and look at what attracted you to, what'd you like about Every Day?
Yeah, so I built an internet consulting company back in the 90s. We had offices all over the country, and we were acquired by a company called Gray Advertising, like one of the big ones, Madison Avenue, whatever. And I remember walking into a building, and they had remember the computers that had the spools on
No, I don't. Yes, I do.
Yeah, but I guess my point is they had been using some Fortran program for 20 years to track things, and it was one day this will be modernized, And so they had 140 agencies around the world, and it was just a huge problem. P&G was their biggest client. Ford was their second largest client. They just couldn't figure it out, and they had a lot of human power trying to manage that, spreadsheets and notebooks and fax machines. And so when I saw Every Day, I was like, well, wait a minute. The idea that AI right now to the general public is ChatGPT, or to a small business, it's I'm going to run a model to do my inventory, when his solution was an interface that looked like your desktop, but these little agents were doing things for you and managing things and going through databases. And when I saw that, I was like, well, that's a really big deal. And so as we began to engage as, sort of founder to coach, I kept encouraging, narrow it down, find someone who really is in desperate need of your help. And he started talking Marcom. And as he went down that rabbit hole, it became more obvious that they're 1,000 pieces of Marcom. If he can just solve one, it's a really, really, really big deal.
Right.
And so that's what inspired me to say, we got to look at this,
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, he came in my office. He was wide-eyed. You got to check this out. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the power of James and the power of ATDC. I mean, that you're doing as well, Chris, because I tell James every day that trigger that he pulled of just saying focus, creative ops, just do it, own the space, stuck with me, right? And I think that's the importance that a lot of people, and especially a lot of founders, when they start off the gate, they want to solve all the world's problems. They want to explain everything that they can do, and it leads them to this kind of field of dream fallacy, right? If you build it, everybody will come to you and you can solve everything. It's not the case. You have to start narrow. And to James's point, when we started talking to people about what we were fixing and narrowing down, everything became clear. The sales got easier, right? The raises get easier because we just solved this one critical wedge, and we just tell everybody, it's that's our Trojan horse. That's how we get in to solve broader problems once we get there. But right now, stay focused.
Yep, I agree with that one. This isn't your first startup, though, is it?
No, this is my second startup. I bootstrapped and sold my first one.
Yeah, isn't it fun?
It's the worst job. I would never quit. Right? It's brutal. I mean, I think you guys know it as well, right? When you work for somebody, it's great. It's comfortable. And when you work for yourself and you take on a level of responsibility for yourself and your employees, and if you have anybody in your life, for your family, and it's a different kind of pressure.
It sure is. It sure is. I love the people that are entrepreneurs in the big companies. That's tough. There's risk. You got to get budget money. You got to fight for stuff. Got to fight for ideas. You might get fired, but you probably won't lose your house.
Right.
Yeah.
Little different pressure, right?
Yeah. Completely different pressure. I mean, again, to the beauty of Atlanta, right? One of the reasons we moved here was, where is a place that we can, build, that has a great culture, that's a great place to kind of like build community, right? And still have if you're building in California or San Francisco for that matter, an apartment's going to run you $8,000 a month for one bedroom in Mission. And if you know that, it's not the best. So building in Atlanta, where you're able to centralize in Midtown, walk to work, have a great quality of life while building and while taking on those risks.
Pretty decent school close by. Yeah.
Yeah, Georgia Tech. Everybody keeps bragging that you're sending people over to San Francisco for that YC thing, and I think everybody's building magic here.
Yeah,
that's right.
And I want to add to Jake and Everyday's point. I mean, we have a huge collection of Fortune 500s, right? We have a number of marketing communications teams that are based in Atlanta. We have amazing events coming like World Cup and Super Bowl and NCAA, and so all of that communication work that's going to happen over the next 5 or 6 years, AI is going to find its way into some of that, right?
Oh yeah, we've got some great studios here. Trilla Studios in the south side of town. I mean,
Tyler Perry Studios, right?
Yeah.
All of those creative places. So I think Atlanta has yet to see its AI moment, but I think it's right around the corner, right? And with companies like Everyday and other AI companies sort of being birthed here, I think there's just a lot of opportunity for us.
Yeah.
If I can touch on that as well, I was invited by somebody in the community to a honorarium of Sig Mosley.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
the Godfather.
Shout out to the Godfather.
Yeah, shout out to the Godfather. I've never met him myself, but
nicest guy, other than James, probably the nicest guy you'll meet. Like that guy.
Really kind of you to say.
It's true.
He's invested in me twice, by the way. So
oh, has he?
Yeah.
So he's
much nicer than I could ever be.
But he's super sharp, and he always has time for people. Like if you see him, he will actually talk to you. It doesn't matter who you are, and you kind of go, wait a minute, that's Sig.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what, having not met the guy, his reputation precedes him. But one of the things that I took away from that honorarium is at the very end of hour and a half of just honoring him, he came away with, know what you're good at and invest early in it, as his advice. And I think that was one of the most powerful things I've heard being new to the ecosystem. You have the guy that's honored by the entire investment and tech community here saying, invest early and invest in what you know in. And what James said about Fortune 15, Fortune 500, Fortune 50 companies here, all right, there's an ecosystem that's built within Atlanta, and there's an opportunity to keep that money and invest early and not wait for everybody else to have success.
That's right.
And pile on later.
Well, that enterprise sale is no joke, is it? Yeah. It's not easy. I think that it is. People think, well, just because it's there, you got a solution to offer, and it solved the problem, that you just waltz in and purchasing gives you the purchase order, and the marketing starts ordering. It's not easy, is it?
It's a slog, man. I mean, it's not easy at all. But I mean, we talk about AI and automating things. You look at the engagement numbers that's happening in AI sales, right? In digital sales driven motions, it's tanking because it's ubiquitous now, because you can proliferate these types of messages across digital channels. So those real relationships and being able to do that in person and go through that
matters, doesn't it?
Oh.
So I think what you said is there are so many options. It's almost like paralysis by analysis. What do we choose? And so they end up not choosing anything.
You just got to commit, man, to your point. You just got to make a decision. You got to risk being told no, and you got to learn from that lesson and evolve.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely agree. And it's timing, right? There's a week where it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. Some senior vice president watches 60 Minutes, a new opportunity, and comes in and says, we're going to do it. And you have to be in the cycle. So when that moment shows up, you're there, you're the solution. They give you a pilot, and it becomes a real deal. And I think some founders often think like, but my software is the best and my company's the greatest and they should be looking for me. And the reality is that's not how corporations work. I mean,
No.
It takes forever to turn a battleship, right? And so I think that determination, that consistency, that relationship building is key to making things happen.
Well, Chris, I think you and I talked about this when we first met. I know James and I have talked about it, but we have a fundamental philosophy at Everyday, and it's one of my core tenets personally, which is rising tides raise all boats. All right, and to your community development and relationship and sales is I think a lot of founders also get lost in, hey, how do I do best? You know, devil be damned.
Right.
And it's more of, especially in a community like Atlanta, it's about doing great for the community. If I do great as an AI founder here, the next one is going to have an easier job.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think a unique cultural thing about Atlanta is they're so nice. They will meet with you and they will bless your heart till you die and go out of business. You know, they're almost really reluctant. A lot of people just say no. They don't say no. They say, well, you know, we'll talk more and stuff like that. But you're right. You have to. What do they say? If you want a friend, be a friend. And that's really the secret. Is you've got to figure out ways to serve people, and not expect anything back. Because as soon as your relationship becomes transactional, good luck.
Yeah.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And that's been a lesson I learned in my first company that I'm trying to bring now, which is you can't always look to just get from what you give.
That's right.
All right.
You're right.
No, that's exactly. I think that's a really critical point, Chris, that you bring up.
But think about the culture of sales organizations and BDRs, and you know you bring on a business development person, and what are they told to do? You go get that sale, you know. So it's automatically like it's difficult to be a great salesperson without that kill attitude. You really got to be patient, and you got to love the product and the solution that you're solving, and you got to love helping people. That has to come first.
Absolutely, absolutely. People, I think, resign themselves to that Glenn Ross, always be closing moment, if you've ever seen that movie.
Oh yeah, man.
Or the
ABC.
Wolf of Wall Street type of thing where there's a perfect pitch, and that's just not the case. And the reality is, and I think you can look to venture capital, even though sometimes they betray this in what they ask, you look at what they say is the best way to get an intro to a funder.
Right.
And that's a warm intro. Where do those warm intros come from? Those come from trust and relationships that you built over time. It's the exact same case with sales, exact same case with networking in any respect. You look and you say, hey, James, you built a company and know a ton of people from Gray. Hey, can you introduce me to everybody in your Rolodex? No, not without knowing you and vetting and understanding that. And you have to put in that time.
Yeah, that's right.
I agree with you. I will give a shout out to Flashpoint because I'm a Flashpoint alum here at Georgia Tech, the accelerator that was here for 8 years. Merrick first talked about this idea of authentic demand, right? And there's another side to it, and we've seen it within Atlanta startups, right? Which is you also build something that's so desirable, so needed that they seek you out. You know, I look at Chris Klaus and ISS, like IBM came knocking. Like people needed what he had, and so it is important to play both sides of that equation. You want something that's or like ringing your phone. VCs are putting, checks in your mailbox, hoping you'll cash a check and then sign the term sheet, right? But at the same time, you also have to build those relationships and be consistent and go out and sell and find opportunity where opportunity is.
Hey, let me ask you a quick question because we're gonna run out of time in a few minutes. This is my gotcha question. Have you ever wanted to quit, and what keeps you going?
Of course. Absolutely.
I have had one person say, no, hadn't even thought about it.
Yeah, they're lying.
But everybody else is like, yeah, what a dumb question.
There's a lot of BS when it comes to be a founder, like what you project on LinkedIn versus the reality. You know me by now, hence the Dodger hat. I'm a bit of a firebrand. I speak my mind. I've absolutely wanted to quit.
What keeps you going? How do you?
Well, when 4:30 a.m. comes and you're waking up at 5 for the next meeting the next day, and the bank account's running low, and you got all your responsibilities, you think, man, it'd be easy to get a job. Hey, that $600,000 check from Amazon seems nice. Maybe I should have taken it. And then you realize what you're in it for. And I think if money drives you and comfort drives you, you're not going to be an entrepreneur. If you're out this to just make a buck, it's not the way to do it.
Yeah.
Frankly, what keeps me going, I can't define it really well, but I started hustling little side jobs when I was in like grade school. And so it's just ingrained in it. But I would say believing in a product, believing in building, having a great team, all of those things, the other tenet aside from the rising tides is purpose. I believe that the missing factor when we look at cultural change that's happening, why are kids lost or why aren't people staying in jobs or whatever it is, comes down to, do people have purpose?
Yeah, right.
Are they living for something? Doesn't matter where they get it from, but if you have that purpose, you're going to drive towards that. And I think you've seen it, you have it. When you see an entrepreneur that knows they're going to build, and they have that tenacity and that persistence, call it an X factor, they just have, that's their purpose. That's what they want to build.
Yeah.
And I think you find people, and that's who you want on your team too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think half of succeeding is just not stopping.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
It's probably more than half. Just, ain't over till it's over.
Yeah.
So, man, this has been really, really good.
Cool.
Thank you for being here, James.
I'm proud of your progress.
All right.
Yeah, man. We are wearing your hat, even though I am not putting no Dodger fan here. Losers.
I want an everyday hat. That's what I want.
That's right.
We got them. We have the early prototypes.
Okay.
So we know how to produce some good
I'll
swag.
put on the swag.
Yeah, we got the sweatshirts. Somebody asked me why the blue dot is our logo, and I said, the pale blue dot. The first picture from the Voyager of the Earth. And it's like our little perspective, right? We're all in it together.
Love it.
Chris, James, I really appreciate it, man. You guys are doing great work here.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the ATDC podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, and share or connect wherever you get your podcasts. Please be sure to follow us on social media. Our handle is @ATDC on X, LinkedIn, and Instagram.